Do you remember when we were 6 weeks out and we got to start our more solid foods with the chopped foods?
I was so ready for that. But I had the hardest time.
Figuring
I really did. Well, because when we started on the chopped foods, I couldn't tolerate a whole lot of the protein at all. And so I had a really hard time. I really struggled with getting the chicken and I think the only thing I could really eat at the time was tuna, or if you chopped up chicken and mixed it with mayonnaise or something, I could sometimes eat that. But
things like that we've cooked before, like the cauliflower mac and cheese, that can be chopped up real easily.
Oh, yeah.
The meatball bites that can be chopped up real easily. Anything like that that's kind of soft to start with, that you're coming out of soft foods with, you can eat a little firmer and a little firmer. I remember that first can of hash, corned beef hash.
I remember eating the hash too. I remember going to the same restaurant and eating
corned beef hash with scrambled eggs.
Yeah,
and it was
really good because we hadn't been able to eat any of that at all.
And it was solid food.
It was real food. It
was probably not the best thing to be eating, but it was available.
And it was food.
And it was good. And we didn't eat, the two of us couldn't even make half of what was on the plate.
That's
so
true.
we ate about a fourth a cup apiece. But it was good protein.
Yeah.
The eggs definitely made the protein.
Right.
I'm sure there were more potatoes in the corned beef hash,
sure
but
yeah.
It was filling. It made us feel like we were eating real food.
Actual food instead of
mush.
Bariatric food.
Or mush or goop,
The other thing that I could eat that I did really well with, of course, scrambled eggs, but I started those on back when we did the soft foods and stuff like that. I was able to eat soft scrambled eggs. But hard-boiled eggs, I would cut them and I would eat them like that, and I would eat deviled eggs and, just these little, things that were just soft enough, but I could chop them up and it was
bacon bits.
Easy. I couldn't do bacon bits.
I could do bacon bits, the ones that come that are ground.
Yeah.
Now, that are real bacon bits, but they run them through a grinder.
Yeah.
I could do those in small amounts, and it gave me a little flavor.
Oh, I couldn't do that at all.
And some people couldn't do it at all. Of course, we did baked potato.
Yeah, lots of baked potatoes.
And
vegetables I could do. I did really well with vegetables on the chopped because I could eat the broccoli and I could eat stuff like that
well, and green beans because they were pretty soft.
I ate a lot of green beans.
And something people didn't think of, and it's one of my favorites, it's a southern dish, is hominy. Hominy has a lot of the starch taken out of the corn.
Yeah.
So it's not as starchy and it's not as hard on your system as corn. And I would get that and chop it up just to be able to have something different. So you just have to think outside the box. Because eating chopped or even soft foods, you have to think outside the box. But then if you're eating chopped foods, like a bowl of pudding, I would chop a strawberry up into that pudding.
Yeah, see, that's something I never thought of.
Yeah, or chop any kind of vegetable or fruit into yogurt and cottage cheese. I know your dad loves pineapple in his cottage cheese.
I grew up with pineapple on cottage cheese, yes.
Pineapple had a little too much sugar for me, but for some people, they can chop it up and it works. It gives you a taste of real food when you're coming off that long dry spell. 2 weeks prior to surgery, liquid, 2 weeks after surgery, liquid, then going on a pureed for 2 weeks, and then that 6th week coming out, you're so hungry for solid.
For real food. Something else that would have been a great addition, I know, in my diet at the time would have been our, green bean casserole, because that was perfectly tender, and the vegetables were very tender, and you can chop that up super easy too.
Right.
Actually, anything.
Just about anything
really,
we've
as
cooked.
far as the chopped foods goes, you can just chop up pretty much whatever you want
Well,
at this
and
stage, just as long as it's really small.
We do a lot of grilled vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And if you chop those vegetables up after they're grilled,
Yeah.
it's, think, like I
Something
said,
else.
don't think you have to have,
Yes.
you can't have, think you can have.
Well, I eat a lot of deli meats too on chopped foods, and so another one that is really, if I had the recipe at the time for the chicken enchiladas using the deli
Right.
meat, how ideal is that? Because you have that shredded chicken and the deli meat, and it's all protein, and it's just.
And you're looking at it, it looks like real food.
Yeah.
You take your knife, you chop it
You
up.
just chop it up, and it's already chopped pretty much for you.
Yeah.
Already.
And there
So,
you're not having to look at a plate of blob.
Yes.
And it
it's
has really good
attractive.
flavor to it.
Now, when you moved on from the chopped foods to 100% full solids, what was the first thing you had?
Full solids. Oh, I was in Florida. That was when I was down there with my
Oh,
grandson when
yeah.
he got hurt. And that week the day came and I'm thinking, what am I going to eat? Because I knew that I didn't want whatever it was that we'd cooked for the kids that night. So I got back to the hotel room and I thought, I am hungry for a hamburger. And guess what I did? I went to the best burger place I could find that had grilled,
Oh, yeah.
and I got it, and I folded up the meat with the lettuce, tomato, and everything in it, and I ate a bite, and about 10 minutes later, I ate another bite,
Oh, man, I bet that was
and
heaven.
the pickles, and the tomato,
Oh, my
and the
goodness,
lettuce,
yeah.
it just was the flavor I wanted. Third bite, I was done.
Wow.
Didn't want a hamburger for another 3 months. But it was okay because I was doing what I was supposed to do. I took a bite, I chewed.
Yeah.
So many people rush that last 2 weeks because they think, well, I'm eating soft foods, I'm ready for a bite of steak, or I'm ready for a piece of
Right.
chicken. And I've had it chopped, my body.
Yeah.
And you will go into absolute pain
Yeah.
because your stomach is just not ready for the solid things to be there. And I did a time or two, not a big bite, but I would pull off a little piece of chicken or something just to get a taste of it. And I knew
Yeah.
if you don't chew, and when they say chew,
Oh, my
chew,
goodness. Yes, they mean it.
they mean it.
And that was something, too, that I struggled with was what is it he told us, 40 chews? 20 chews.
32 to 40.
And something like that.
37,
and it was
I don't know.
hard to do that.
And it's hard because, and I watch the grandkids that are eating whatever, usually spaghetti or mac and cheese. They get a big spoonful and they take about 3 chews and down the hatch.
That's the comfort bites that we
And
keep
I'm
referring
like,
to.
did I really do that? And I know I did.
I know.
Because now when I just feel something that is just a little bit too big, I'm going, oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So, and until you have hurt, you won't realize it. And
Oh, my
it can
goodness.
cause
And
serious problems.
It really can. And, people don't realize that for us, we have the vertical sleeve, which doesn't really stretch a whole lot. Although I am finding out down towards the bottom, towards the intestine, it is
little
stretchy,
stretchy.
and it can stretch out right there too. So for sleevers, the bottom of our sleeves can stretch. For somebody who has lap band or the bypass, the top, the pouch can stretch out, and it can happen easier than you think it can.
Well, and the sad thing is with the lap band, mine didn't mushroom like a lot of people's did, but I had hiatal hernia. And you don't realize the hiatal hernia is like a tear in the esophagus, and it's right above that band, and it can be very serious if that was to rupture. And so you have to be very careful. Another thing, when you're 6 weeks out and you're trying that first bite of solid foods, your stitches, staples, whatever they put in there, are not completely healed.
They're still healing. They're still in the healing process. And so Yeah.
Well, and
I
the
know what
other
you're
part
saying.
is they've removed the part of the stomach that pushes the food through to the intestine. So it's harder for your stomach to push that through. And if it's a big, hard thing, it's going to hurt. That's just the way it is. And
Well,
we
and
have
if you
to
have a band, it can get stuck.
And that did happen
And
to me.
if you have, the bypass, it can hurt as well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it can cause, eating too fast can, with the bypass, you get dumping a lot with a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons that you can get dumping is eating too fast or eating too big a bite.
Well, that's true. And another point is with the band, the lap bands, which I had for 8 years. I did get some things stuck at different times. And
I remember
the
that.
pain, but the repetitive swallowing, when you start swallowing, then you know it's going to come up. And it's stuck.
And that happens with the sleeve too.
Oh, yeah. If you get into if you feel yourself repetitively swallowing, it's because you're getting a little nauseous. And I wasn't getting nausea, I was just getting the repetitive. And it was like, uh-oh, something's going to explode.
Yeah.
Well, there was a plug in there, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
And so I would throw up, and it's 80 miles to our doctor.
Ooh.
And I threw up all the way to Dallas.
Ooh.
And of course, by the time I got there, it had come out. But that's not the way it's supposed to come out.
No.
And that's
no.
very, very hard on you. And so the next day, after going to emergency room, I was back in the doctor's office to make sure that I hadn't torn anything. So you got to remember, it is a new tummy. It's tender. It needs loving care.
And there is a reason why we start out on on liquids and then soft foods, and it's just like an infant's stomach.
Right.
You wouldn't start your infant on steak and baked potato.
He didn't have no teeth.
But their little tummies wouldn't be able to handle that.
That's true.
And so that's why you start it, because you're retraining your stomach how to digest food, and you're retraining your body how to respond to the food.
And in my instance, I was retraining the esophagus
Yeah.
to swallow.
Yeah.
And that's why we say this can help people who have other bariatric surgeries like
Gastric surgeries. Yeah.
gastric surgeries, because the doctors just give them a list and say, go sick them. And they're in the same boat we are.
And people who have had any kind of stomach repair or esophageal repair, really, also this stuff is for them too. And so the whole point of that whole long was chew your food. Don't sit there and take those big comfort bites and just swallow. And the other thing to remember too, there's also a reason why they tell us to wait 30 minutes after we eat to drink. Because what happens is that the liquid piles on top of your food, and it either takes the place of food that you need to be eating, or it washes it through, depending on which surgery you've had.
Right. And in my instance, I've found that if I wait 30 minutes after, if I wait an hour, I really need to drink. But if I wait that 30 minutes, then I know that I've cleaned everything out of my stomach then with my drinking, because I've gotten back in. Because like I said, that portion of the stomach that pushes the food out of the intestine is not there. And if you don't drink when you're supposed to, you'll just sit there and it'll just, you go, oh, what's going on? And you can hear the stomach grinding, and you suddenly feel push there, you feel a pain, and that's what it is your stomach's still trying to empty, and you're not helping it any. So
And another thing too is sometimes after waiting 30 minutes, you find that you're still hungry, and that you still need a little more food in your body, and so you can take another couple of bites and wait another 30 minutes and see.
Usually, if you're doing that, you really haven't concentrated on your protein.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because for some of us, especially those of us that are later out, sometimes we are eating a little bit more than we would have been eating at 6 months. At a year, you're going to eat more than you ate at 6 months. At 2 years, you're probably going to be eating just a little bit more than you ate at a year. And so it's better to wait until you feel the initial fullness and then wait. And if you're still hungry, then have a little bit more.
Well, and there again is getting that hunger, whether it's head hunger or whether it's real hunger.
Right, and understanding the difference.
And that's another whole
Yeah, that's another conversation.
conversation.
Altogether.
I really, and it is very in depth, and it's something each individual will have to figure out for themselves. I usually, once I've eaten, I wait the 30 minutes, I drink, and I don't eat again for 2 hours, because then I eat a little protein in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I try to get those 5 meals in a day. That's the
And
key.
you can't always, though.
No, that first 6 months I was struggling to get 600 calories a
Oh,
day.
I couldn't even get hardly 500 some
Yeah.
days. So
And if, that is starvation. But your body is eating up fat, so you're not going to starve, but you still have the head hunger, and you're craving the weird stuff that you can't eat. And so by making sure you start with the protein and work around the plate, then you will be a whole lot more
yeah,
full feeling. And the chewing also helps. The more you chew, the less you're hungry. And it's all tied together some way with the saliva and all this deep stuff that I'm not sure the chemical reaction of food in your body. But I do know the more you chew, the less hungry you are.
Well, so I think it's important too to remember that there are some rules of thumb when you do move on to full solids. Of course, rule number 1 is protein first. You eat your protein, and then you eat your vegetables, and then you have a little starch if you're still hungry. The second rule of thumb is, of course, the small bites and chewing.
And don't do what I did. Do not go out and eat a hamburger.
Yeah.
That was do
as we say, not as we do.
And but everybody's gonna do something.
Well, and sometimes though, a hamburger once in a while is okay.
Well, a stewed piece of chicken would have been a whole lot better. But I did not have any problem. No, I didn't eat the bun,
you
and
had protein and you had a vegetable.
And it was a kid's burger, and I only ate 3 bites of it. So I didn't do a bad thing. But whatever you're craving, make sure your tummy's ready for it before you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, follow your surgeon's instructions always. We might give you information that we've gotten from our own research and from our surgeon, but our information might vary slightly from what your surgeon has told you. So always follow your surgeon's instructions.
They have a reason for it.
There is a reason. They've done this so many times. They are tried and true, and they know why they're telling you what they're telling you.
And they see a dozen patients a day that do and don't do what they're supposed to. And so we can say what we did, but they have a little more information too.
Exactly. So that's right. Wow.
It's a lot.
We've come full circle, haven't we?
We have. We've come a long way.
We've started from the liquids, and now we've done the solids, and this is actually the final in our Back to Basics series.
It is. And the thing is, there's always new information.
Absolutely.
And we'll be coming back and talking about that new information. And hopefully things, as surgeons progress with their surgeries and their treatments, the process will be better and easier. And hopefully we'll have more doctors that are saying, listen to 7 bites. Because this would, is a way for the patient to fill in the blanks between what the doctor's sheet tells you and what you really want to know.
And our goal is to kind of help you guys take the guesswork out of things. And so we hope that we're helpful in that respect.
Well, opening your mind to thinking outside the box so that you don't feel like you're deprived, but you don't feel like you're abusing yourself either.
True.
We want to keep you between those lines so that you stay in a losing mode. And like me, if you're at a good place where you've reached your goal, we want you to stay there. We don't want you jumping back up.
That's right. Exactly. So, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and thank you for joining us on this journey. And it has been such a journey. And we are almost done with season 2.
We are. So stick around.
Wow. So can't wait to see what's going to happen next for sure. Well, don't forget, guys, to click the little like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to us, please do so now, because that really helps us out a lot. It helps our channel, and it helps us as well. and just, help us get the information out there. Don't forget to tell everybody you know about us if you love what we do. Share us with your doctors, with your friends, with your Facebook groups, with your bariatric forums, with everybody that you can think of.
Your support groups.
Because we want this information out there. And if we've helped you, let us know. Don't forget to comment. And because we love you guys. You guys are, I keep saying it, I think every video I have officially said this now for the last 5 videos, that we have the best fans on the planet.
We really do. So y'all stick around and see what we're up to.